Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's midweek reboot, the Calm Performance Reset. My name's Mayan, and I'm glad that you're able to join this live. And if you're watching this later, I'm glad that this has found you. So these sessions, it's simply a space where we pause and we reflect on how we work, why we work, and how we build a life that feels both stable as well as meaningful. Let me share my screen. So tonight, we are speaking about something many professionals they quietly think about but rarely say it out loud. That's the desire to build something of their own. It doesn't mean quitting your job, your day job, or abandoning your stability, your steady source of income. But many people are simply exploring the possibility of creating something personal alongside the career that they already have. So I've been watching videos and I've been reading about it. But this year is known symbolically as the year of the horse. In many traditions, the horse it represents movement, independence, and the courage to run your own path. So before a horse runs, something interesting happens. The horse stands still. In this moment, the horse is not idle, it is gathering energy, strength, and direction. And some of you are in that moment right now. You may be sensing that there's something else you would like to build. The difference between potential and movement is often really small. The horse does not suddenly leap into a full sprint. It begins by moving one step, then another. In many ways, building something of your own works the very same way. First, it's a thought that becomes an idea. And then, if you plan around that, you start taking small actions, and that grows over time, and you build momentum. So, last week, something interesting happened during the live, which actually inspired me to do up this topic for this week. Two viewers shared something that caught my attention. One person said that they will be putting a plan together for a side business that they have been thinking about. Another viewer mentioned that they want to start speaking to established businesses to promote their own growing business. Now, that sat with me for the entire week, and therefore I said it inspired this live because it reminded me that professionals quietly carry ideas they want to explore. They don't want to necessarily leave their jobs, but to build something alongside their careers. And therefore, we're having this discussion today. So get ready to type because I've got a question for you. If money was not a factor, what would you choose to build or explore? You can type that into the chats. If money were not a factor, what would you choose to build or explore? And perhaps it might be writing or teaching, baking, consulting, designing, woodwork. So, or even creating something online. Okay, let me look at the chats. My passion, I'd explore baking on a full time basis. Not sure, another person is not sure, I've yet to find my passion. Okay, so it might not even be a passion, it might be something that you're interested in. So the baking, pursue it from, start small and build it up. If you're not sure of your passion, try a couple of things and something might catch your attention. So you just need to be experiment more. What can you get lost in for hours and you don't even recognize that time's gone? And that is something, possibly something you should look at. So why do we work? Most people, they work. I've got another response over here, love to travel. And that's so true. If money was not a factor, then traveling can be, you would spend time traveling. And if you spend time traveling, we think about going overseas, but how about traveling within your country, traveling to the next town? Or well, I'm from South Africa and we've got a beautiful country. So there's so many places we can travel to that's within the country. And if you're in other countries as well, I'm sure the same can be applicable to you as well. There must be places that you haven't seen, so don't always think about international travel. Here, right at your home, around you, there's beautiful places that you can consider going to. So, moving on to why we work. So, most people start working because it's primarily their source of income, and also they want stability. We come out of school or we come out of tertiary institutions, and we need to also start providing for ourselves. So, we start to work. But over time, it also provides identity and a sense of contribution. Your job because provides you with identity, but also you contributing, you creating, you providing value. So work is not the be all and end all, but we are more than just our work. And I'd like to explain that using Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I'm not going to go into the theory of it, but it's a psychological model developed by Abraham Maslow called the hierarchy of needs. So human needs grow in layers and it's not linear, right? So there's security first, and then you build meaning. So you see over here, at the base, there's physiological needs that includes food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep. So your physiological needs need to be taken care of. Then comes safety and security, employment, your good health, having property, family, and social ability. Then comes love and belonging, which includes friendship, family, intimacy, and a sense of connection. Thereafter, there's self esteem, where it includes confidence, achievement, respect of others, the need to be a unique individual. And then you progress to self actualization, which includes morality, creativity, spontaneity, I'm pronouncing that wrong, acceptance, experience, purpose, meaning, and inner potential. Now, as I said, this hierarchy of needs, it's not linear. But if you don't have your physiological needs and safety and security met, it's really hard to go higher up. And when I was doing research for this topic, and I thought about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how it links up with professionals, what I'm realizing is in the workplace, because of the environment, there's retrenchments. Companies are getting doing more with less people. There's AI, etc. Then there's a need for people to have side hustles, to build things on the side that they own, to explore their passions that could bring them additional income. Things are expensive. So sometimes our salaries, we can't get by with just our salaries. We need a side hustle as well. So, therefore, entrepreneurs are more. You look at lots of youngsters as well. They're going into, I see in the YouTube environment, there's lots of youngsters that's doing that. So, the environment allows for people to become entrepreneurs. There's so many opportunities. But then when I thought about it as well, I realized that professionals, they get into entrepreneurship much later because there's a steady source of income, there's a stable source of income. And then at a later stage, like myself, you want to build something of your own as well. So, therefore, you might look at building something outside of your career. So, Maslow's hierarchy of needs shows that people want to build things of their own. Entrepreneurs, it's a source of income, safety, and security. So that's where and that's why they're building something of their own, because that's their source of income. Then professionals, maybe once they have a steady career, then they'll look at doing something or something for themselves. This picture shows that you can walk both paths. You can have the security of having a job, a steady income, building your skills, your network, your capital. Then you can also do something on the side. You can build something of your own. It doesn't need to be separate. Those parts can merge. Often, even you utilize the skills, the capital, the network that you get from your job or engaging with people to actually build something of your own. So you don't need to think that it's separate. You can actually use one to give you momentum as you build something of your own. A lot of professionals build whilst they're working. So here comes my story. I work a full time corporate job, and at the same time, I'm building this YouTube channel. And I started it not last year, the year before, and I'm learning. I'm constantly learning. There's recording, there's editing, there's storytelling, and I'm new to all of that. The growth has been gradual and it's been imperfect. It's been frustrating at many times as well. But I know I want to build something of my own. So therefore, I should not let up. And remember, most side projects, they don't begin with large investments from investors or large teams. They begin quietly, possibly you at your laptop, at the kitchen table, a notebook, a single hour in the evening. This is how meaningful ventures begin. So it made me think about Jeff Bezos when he started Amazon. He started from his garage. Facebook began in a dorm room. Apple was also started in a garage. So small beginnings are far more common than we think. If you have any questions, you can also put it into the chat. I'd like to ask you, when could you realistically build something small each week? If you wanted to build something, when can you realistically put time aside to actually build and start at what you want to do? You may drop your answers into the chat. And I encourage you to be realistic when you're thinking about this. And don't make big, ambitious promises. Be realistic of how you could realistically build something small and do it on a weekly basis. Most people do not build something new by suddenly finding 10 hours in a week. They build it by finding small windows of time that already exist. So, for example, one evening a week, perhaps one evening after dinner, or when early in the morning before you wake up at 6 o'clock, wake up at 5 o'clock when the house is quiet, just one focused hour. And guess what? That gives you 52 hours in the year. And that's how you begin your side projects. We can always make time. I'll take some comments. I've got a response: weekends or free time during the week. Yes, weekends. And weekends tend to just fly, right? But if we can be more intentional of how we utilize that time, I find that if I use time early in the morning or late in the evening, my mind is clear, and then I can give time to side um, my side hustle. Now that I have someone great helping me out at work, I will have free time in the evenings and weekends to work on my personal side hustle. That's another response. And that's great. So if you can find there's certain areas of work that you can outsource and get assistance on, then that allows you, frees you up to also dedicate time to what you want to build. So you need to find time to make it work for you. Thank you for responding. So every idea meets resistance. After you're excited of starting something new, many people encounter silence or rejection. When people first offer their idea to the world, the response is often quiet. There's slow progress. My experience with YouTube has been the same. As I use the word frustrating, it has been frustrating. There's some videos that would have under 20 views, and I put my heart and soul into that video, but it didn't. And my expectation level was much higher than what I got out, but it allowed me also to get better at speaking, at understanding the technology, at editing. So, all the various facets of being a YouTuber, I was learning that. And I didn't give up, and I'm still at it. Even though I'm still looking at becoming monetized, it's a journey. And what I've done is I've I've said to myself, I will enjoy every video I put out there. I will enjoy every live I put out there. Today I spent from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the afternoon in a meeting the whole day, and I felt really exhausted. But then I knew that this is something of my own, and I need to also show up for people who look forward to the live, who's going to watch it at a later stage as well. So I allowed myself to just reset, and here I am. And guess what? Now that I'm here, I have much more energy. It's like didn't work that full day, and I wasn't in the meeting the full day. Now I have the energy to give to my side hustle. And the thing is, when you do something that you love, it energizes you as well. So, does anybody know who's the gentleman that I'm put onto the page? You can drop it into the chat. Nobody knows? Or is there just a lag? Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders of KFC. I hope I don't make you crave KFC now. Um, but and well done. Thank you for responding. So, Colonel Sanders, he traveled across America trying to persuade restaurants to use his fried chicken recipe. He reportedly received over 1,000 rejections. 1,000 rejections. And here is the part that surprises many people. He began doing this at the age of 65. Somebody says they're hungry now. And imagine if he had stopped after the 20th rejection. So he started this at 65. And eventually, the first years led to the creation of KFC. But he had to go through that 1,000 rejections. So I often think of stories like this. I turned 50 last year, November, and I'm building this YouTube channel. You're never too old to do something. And yes, there's lots of youngsters out there, but yet I also have the experience that I can share with others. It might motivate somebody, it might give somebody courage, it might help somebody on their journey. So we sometimes assume that the window to starting something new and meaningful has passed. But history shows that meaningful things can begin much later than we think. And Colonel Sanders, is an example of that. So no equals not yet. Rejection often provides information, and it's not the final verdict. And I'll repeat that. When you are rejected, it doesn't mean it's a no. It provides you with information that you can use. It's not the final verdict. When something does not work, it can mean many different things. Sometimes it might mean it's the wrong time. It might be the wrong audience, or simply a message that is not clear yet. You might need to look at your pricing. You might need to look at how are you bringing your thing to the market. It will make you stop to think, okay, what should I do differently? So, for example, I look at a video, certain things I might not like, and I look at it from not judging myself, but how can I improve myself? I will ask my sister as well after we watch a video, what's the good and the bad? And I know I will get a honest response from her in terms of how I can improve. So remember, no is not a be all and a end all. Think of no as not yet. And don't think of it as failure. Use it as its feedback. So, for example, many people do not know this. And I've been reading this book about YouTube. It Actually, YouTube originally began as a video dating site. Did you know that? That YouTube, it was originally planned to be a video dating site, and that's how they put it in the market. The founders thought that people would upload short videos introducing themselves to potential partners, but users started uploading completely different kinds of videos instead of forcing the original idea. What the founders did, they looked at what the market was saying, and they paid attention to what people were actually doing. So they used that as feedback. And what they did thereafter is they adapted the platform to match the behavior. And what we see is that evolution is what eventually turned YouTube into the platform that we currently know. So remember, sometimes that no is not a rejection of an idea, it's simply information that helps us refine the direction that we're going in. Did you guys know that about YouTube? You can pop it into the chats. I found that quite interesting because I didn't know that until I read it. And yes, the kernels, I've got a chat response over here that's a truly inspiring story about Colonel Sanders. I agree. You're never too old. That's a cool fact. Yes, indeed, it is. Um, and yeah, no, I didn't. Didn't know. Interesting. Yes, I found that quite interesting about YouTube. Persistence creates opportunity. So, Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, she did not start her career in fashion. She was actually a door to door fax machine salesperson in Florida. So, one day she had a simple problem. She wanted something to wear under her clothes that would make them look smoother and more flattering. So, she experimented. And a lot of inventions happen through experimentation. So she took a pair of pantyhose and she cut off the feet. The idea worked, but when she tried to turn it into a product, most of the manufacturers did not believe in it. She traveled to various factories and presented the ideas, and it was always a no. Every single one of them, they absolutely rejected her. Then there was one person that she indicated that she went to, and he had kids. He had three girls, and they loved the idea. So he bought into it, and she started this company with $5,000 in her savings. And over time, through that 1 year, the Spanx business grew into a global brand. And Sarah Blakely, she became the youngest self made female billionaire in the world. She was about, I think, 27 or 28. So her story reminds us that sometimes the difference between an idea that disappears and an idea that succeeds is simply that we don't give up and that we persist. I thought that was quite motivating as well. That, out of small things and out of a need comes an innovation. And then if she stopped over there and didn't take an idea forward, then Spanx wouldn't have been what it is now. So it's also about the action. You can't sit on ideas. You might have great ideas, but how are you building those ideas? How are you taking action? So I've got over here on the slide. What if the idea you keep thinking about is the one you're meant to explore? So there's this book that I'm also reading every now and then is Think and Grow Rich. I'm not sure if you've read it. You can put it in the chat. So there is a line in this book by Napoleon Hill. He's the author that saved that stayed with me for quite a few as I've been reading this. He wrote that every great achievement begins with a burning desire, a clear idea of something you want to bring into the world. But he also said something even more interesting, that most people abandon their desire the moment they encounter difficulty. So, what it means that difficulty is part of the journey. He goes on to say, that is why persistence becomes the real difference between ideas that disappear and the ideas that become reality. And what he wrote is whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So there's quite a few things over here. You need to have an idea, you need to believe in that idea, you need to take action, and then you can achieve it. You can't just think up an idea. Many people can have the same ideas, but those who succeed are the ones who took action. Those who succeed are the ones who go through the difficulty, who learn from it, who course correct as they go, but they keep at it. Yes, it is a really good book. And it's one of the old books, and you'll see on YouTube many people they recommend the book as well. And I think it's about the principles. It's even in this day and age you can embrace the principles. So it's Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And what I like about this, they've adapted it for the 21st century. Yes, there's a comment as well. I think our greatest problem is fear. And the thing about fear is you call it out. What what holds you back? What's the worst that can happen? And sometimes you go through it as a thought experiment. What is the worst that can happen? And call it out and confront it. And then you say to yourself, what's the smallest action that I can take? What's the smallest and possibly the safest action that I can take? And let me experiment and let me start building from there. So, fear, the way you deal with fear is also by action, but by first calling it out. And you've done that in the chat. So, kudos to you. I put the slide up, and in many ways, an idea is like a seed. And you'll note if you plant a seed, you won't see it grow instantaneously. It has to, for that tree to the last image of the tree, the full tree, it has to go through a process. There's long-term growth from a seed to a little sapling, and then a little larger tree to a big beautiful tree. So people, they often overestimate what they can achieve in 3 months. We have big expectations of what we want to achieve over a month or 3 months, or when we just launch something. But they underestimate what they can achieve in 3 years. So if you consistently work at it, it compounds over time. Horses, they often in the wild, they hesitate before running into unfamiliar terrain. But once they begin moving, their confidence increases with each step. And being an entrepreneur, it often works in the same way. Clarity does not arrive before action. You get clear on it. And this is another thing about fear as well. Once you start doing something, then you become clear. You won't have, remember what we spoke about YouTube? It was supposed to be a video dating site or platform, but it had to evolve. So as you start taking action, you become clear as to your service offering. Clarity develops through movement, and your confidence it also builds with each action. So I started this YouTube channel. It was a faceless YouTube channel. I was learning behind the scenes how to work on YouTube, how to edit, how to operate YouTube. Then my confidence built, and I knew I needed to show my face. I needed to learn to speak to the camera. I need to speak in front of the camera. Yes, I make mistakes like just a few seconds ago, but you don't need to be perfect because you refine the trade as you go along. And you know what? We're imperfect beings. If I come over here and I act all perfect, then you wouldn't also take me seriously. So remember, your confidence will build as a business owner, as you pursue your passion. So here's some practical things. And, I love to leave you with some practical actions that you can take. Think about one small step you could take this month. Think about one small step. Remember, if you hold fear in your mind, it gets larger and larger. So what I propose you do is you write the idea down. What idea you'd like to pursue? Speak to 3 people about it. Or speak to Chat GPT about it. He'll give you some answers as well. Use AI to your benefit. Then you start testing it small. Put those actions and test it. If you want to develop something, build a prototype. One person mentioned baking. Try baking goods and selling it at the flea market. If you want to paint something, you paint something and you try and sell that or give it to somebody. But start it small. Like, for example, I said with YouTube, I started small and now I'm building. And most importantly, give it time. Give it time and learn from it. And there's a comment in the chats. We are learning every day. And that is such an important point. You need to be open to learning. You need to have your eyes open. What is the market saying? What is your audience saying? What do they enjoy? What don't they enjoy? And that's what you need to build on. So give it time, but always have that learning mentality. I've got, I think, my last 3 slides, and then we'll come to a close. If there's any questions, any comments, please drop it into chat. And then to speak about the horse metaphor again, your job can support your life, but building something of your own, that can build your spirit and give you freedom. And stability and creativity, they do not need to compete. Remember, I said you can have your professional job, you can have your career, but you can build something on the side. They can coexist. And you should explore ideas you feel drawn towards. If you're in a certain area, one person said they didn't find their passion as yet, but you're good at something. How about trying to teach it to somebody? How about trying to monetize that as you teach it to somebody else? With myself, I knew I needed to, and here's another story actually. Last year, my one client wanted to bring down my rates, and I knew it will impact my standard of living. What that did, it set in motion that I need to actually become serious with the YouTube. So therefore, I became serious in terms of wanting to build the YouTube, my YouTube channel. So you see, also certain things happen in our lives that trigger us to take certain actions. And we might think it a curse, but actually it's a blessing that we do only see afterwards. They do say hindsight is 2020. I'm just looking at the chats. There's no comments. Okay. So my question over here is, what is something you have always wanted to build but have not started yet? And that's a question I'd like to leave you with tonight. You don't need to drop it into chats, but you need to think about it. And you need to start working on it. If that's something, that thought that keeps coming, that idea keeps coming to you, then it's worth thinking about and it's worth putting into action. And if it came to your mind, then it's worth exploring. And sometimes this, I'm not sure about you, sometimes there's thoughts that always nags at us. We need to do it. But there's various things. I know I've always said I want to write a book, but I've been putting it off. And yes, possibly it's fear, because once I started, will the words come to me? But you know what? I need to. So, what I've undertaken to do is let me start writing small things, the newsletter that I want to start. So, those are small actions that will give me confidence to write a book eventually. And if you're watching this on replay, I'd love to know what came to your mind in terms of something that you want to build. But ponder over that. I don't see any questions. This is my last slide. And what I'd like to say is just thank you for spending time with me and reflecting on this with me tonight. I hope this conversation, it just encourages you to explore the ideas that matter to you step by step. If you've started something, don't become disillusioned. Look at how you can make things work. And remember, the no's bring us closer to the yes. I'm glad that you enjoyed this session, Yesh. And whatever you choose to build and whatever path you choose to walk, you must remember you need to enjoy the journey and always remember that you matter. And I'm glad, Kalisha, that this gave you lots to think about. If you, as I said, if you're on a journey yourself, you enjoy it. And as I said, again, you matter. I will see you next week, same time, same place. If you have any suggestions in terms of topics, or if you want me to unpack something for you from a productivity perspective, please also just drop a comment to this video. I respond to all my messages. And thank you for being with me. Have a beautiful week further. Bye for now.